The board of directors at Tesla launched a search for a new CEO amid Elon Musk's controversial work with the Trump administration. That's according to a report in the Wall Street Journal. After the story broke, the chair of the Tesla board denied the report and said the board is confident in Musk's ability to grow the company. Last week, the company reported profits in the first quarter had dropped 71%. Joining us to discuss, Miranda Nazaro, tech reporter here at The Hill. Hi, Miranda. So the board chair says the Wall Street Journal report is not true. Musk is blasting the report on social media, but surely Tesla's board has to be concerned about the trajectory of the company.
For sure. You can't deny the timing of the report as well. Yesterday, Musk was in the cabinet meeting, and there was discussions of him pulling back from DOGE, which, as you mentioned, is a huge part of why investors have been concerned about Tesla. The board might be trying to show good face right now, show that they are in a more stable position. They said that this search happened in March, and we know that that was before Musk sort of gave these assurances like he did last week that he will be slowly departing from DOGE, or at least winding down his time and shifting his focus back to Tesla, which has struggled in the markets as a result of the political backlash. But again, the timing is pretty notable that this report came out just hours after, during that cabinet meeting, Trump said, you can stay here as long as you want. He acknowledged Musk will probably go back to his companies, but they're sort of playing both sides right now, and I do wonder if that re-spurred concerns for investors, considering that was already there. Last week, Musk sort of assured those concerns, but then yesterday opened the door of, oh wait, Musk could actually be staying here longer than May 30th.
Yeah, and I don't know if that image of Musk wearing a Gulf of America hat is exactly what investors want to see, considering what's happening at the company. Also yesterday, Musk spoke with reporters. He had some interesting tidbits in that conversation, including that he's been sleeping at the White House.
Correct, yes. And the president invites him a lot to sleep over, and he also encourages him to go have ice cream in the White House kitchen, which I thought was funny. And then he says, but don't tell RFK Jr. It was, yeah, a good tidbit to see sort of the intensity as well as the parts that you don't see normally.
As you mentioned, Musk said that he is going to be cutting back his work at the White House. It's going to be kind of a side hustle, I guess, moving forward. He's going to do it 1 to 2 days per week. What's he going to be doing?
Yeah, it's bizarre because he is definitely going with the whole I'm going to spend 1 to 2 days on DOGE and then I'm going to focus on my other companies. And when a reporter asked during that briefing that you mentioned yesterday, when a reporter asked basically, will that ever wind down too? Will the 1 to 2 days of eventually stop entirely? And he said that's up to the discretion of the president. So they're kind of hedging, not necessarily saying whether or not Musk will completely depart from the White House per se. It seems like he plans to at least have some sort of presence for the next 4 years. He mentioned that as well on a call with Tesla investors. While assuring them, he also said, I will serve the president as long as I need to. So I think while he's sort of plays both sides of things, I don't think investors are going to be fully assured. And as you mentioned with the two hats, I think if he is in Trump's orbit, Tesla could still face problems, because the reality is it's not just the time spent at DOGE, it's the backlash over it and sort of the political imagery that comes with it, as we saw by the Gulf of America hat.
Does Musk think his time at the White House has been a success? At first he said he was going to save $2 trillion through the Department of Government Efficiency. That number now is all the way down to $160 billion. Some might argue that, I don't know, this was all a show.
Yeah, I think Musk has acknowledged, as has the president, that cutting $2 trillion is definitely a much bigger task than they originally had framed it to be. And I think it's interesting because now the president is hedging. These numbers will be a lot bigger in the months to come. So I think that Musk still appears pretty confident, despite the backlash. He does believe he is actually doing good here. He believes DOGE is actually effective. Again, 160 billion is a lot less than the 2 trillion they originally set out for. But again, it's not clear what the path forward for Doge is. This is something that Musk has indicated will continue, even should he completely step aside. So I think they're leaving the door open to reach that number. However, it seems the legacy of Doge at this right now is at least these mass firings, the program spending cuts, which are all still playing out in court. So I think it's going to be a long time before we can say this was the actual impact of Doge. And, again, we don't even know when this program or initiative will actually end at this point.
What does the business world think about Musk returning to Tesla? Investors have a lot of money caught up in that company. Do they think the brand damage is fixable with Musk at the helm?
There's a lot of mixed opinions on that. Wedbush security analyst, which Dan Ives, he's a tech analyst there, and he follows this very closely. And he interpreted last week as this was all Musk needed to do. He needed to assure investors. He needed to say that he was going to be taking more time. And Ives says he believes that this will help recover Tesla. There are other analysts I spoke with last week who say, kind of as I mentioned before, if you are in the White House's orbit, if you are in President Trump or MAGA world's orbit, the brand damage isn't going to go anywhere because, again, the backlash isn't necessarily just over Doge, it's over other policies because Musk at this point is a political entity. He's not just a businessman. And there are plenty of investors who say you just really can't mix business and politics, like even to small degrees. There's a reason why people have to divest from their companies before entering into public office. But again, Musk is in this weird in between spot where he's a special government employee. He never had to go through those processes, say a cabinet member did. So the industry feels very mixed about it, and I think that until there's a little bit more certainty, I think it's going to be hard to say whether this damage is reversible.
Yeah, one thing for certain, the people doing PR work for Tesla and Elon Musk are going to have a big job ahead of them. We'll leave it at that, Miranda. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.